people say you're riding high in April, shot down in May. But I know
Welcome to Talks of Life podcast. Today's guest is Alexandria Quillen. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, Quillen.
Beautiful. So she is the CEO and founder of SunnyQSunscreen. Essentially, I discovered this product in business a few months back when one of my friends promoted it on her Instagram. Shout out Brittany Livingston. I'm really thankful to have you here. And we'd love to just hear a little bit about yourself and maybe where you're from and your connection with the coral reef and sunscreen, of course.
Sure. So I am 26 and I'm originally from South Jersey, right outside of Philly. My family moved down here when I was younger. So I've always been near the ocean and the beaches. I recently started to get involved with the coral reefs and becoming more all natural per se. Back in 2016, 2017, I had really bad cystic acne. And so I was trying to figure out what could alleviate that cystic acne. And the first thing that I read up on was dairy. Now, mind you, my uncle, he was a chef, so there was no restrictions on my diet whatsoever growing up. I always ate animal products, animal byproducts, and it was really difficult for me at first because I didn't think that something that I would consume day to day since I was younger would affect my body in that way. Long story short, all the cystic acne started to clear up, and that was on top of going to a dermatologist, trying the topical treatment, the oral treatment, and I kind of had an epiphany in a sense that if this is what is going on just from eating dairy, what else could potentially be harming my body? So I started to research different products, skincare products. I am also a makeup artist in Southwest Florida, and it was imperative for me to try and figure out, okay, if this dairy is hurting my skin, what makeup products are hurting my skin? And I researched what the number one most damaging skincare product is, and sunscreen came up. It kind of took me back. I was a little bit concerned, and I was reading up on the damages that they were doing to our health and the damages that they were doing to our skin. Mind you, 2016, 2017, this stuff wasn't as prevalent as it is now. You could type in damages of sunscreen and you'll have pages and pages. But when I initially researched this was probably 3-4 pages deep, finding out that the sunscreen was doing this much damage. So I decided to find out how to make my own, and I started to create it in my kitchen for myself. I was a late bloomer. I went to college a little bit later than my counterparts, and I was in Professor Izzy's class, and it was an intro to entrepreneurship class. And we had to write about if we could create our dream business, what would it be? And carelessly, I kind of just wrote, it'd be really cool to turn my sunscreen that I make at home into a thriving business. I really didn't want to write about my makeup business that I have. I was just trying to think outside the box. And when he gave our papers back, it said, "Come see me" on the top of it. And he told me after class that there was a program called the Runway Program. And it's basically for startup companies from students that want to create their own businesses or have a business idea. And at the end of the semester, they get to pitch for seed capital to a panel of angel investors. And he said that this could be a great opportunity for me to actually start this business and bring it to fruition. So I was like, what do I have to lose? I'm 26. I'm starting school again. let me just go interview. So I went and interviewed, went through the interview process, met with Scott, met with Mark, and those are professors that are in the runway program, and I got in. And long story short, it just kind of took its own route. Like, I immediately was interviewed by Fox and NBC and ABC, and I was not expecting that. Initially, I went to go to the runway program because I was like, I'm just going to go sell it at the farmers market locally, or at the student farmers market for extra cash. I never expected it to turn into a global business that could potentially go into numerous retailers. So that's basically what happened. And that was a year and a half ago. And I did a survey for people that were wanting to pre-order or purchase after the news launched my interview. And so I went from 0 followers on Instagram to almost 700 within 2 weeks, which is pretty cool, especially for a product that was just an idea at the time. And I had people DMing me, asking me when they can get their hands on it. And I realized, okay, I'm not going to just be able to make this out of my kitchen. This is something that could potentially be huge. So I decided to meet with a manufacturer, and it ended up being the #1 sunscreen manufacturer in the country, and I had no idea. And they kind of walked me through the steps of how the process works. I gained a ton of knowledge, even more than what I thought that I knew, within the last year and a half. And we were supposed to be launching this month, but unfortunately, due to COVID-19, things got postponed. And hopefully, fingers crossed, it's going to be this summer. And what SunnyQSunscreen is, it's an all-natural, chemical-free, and the main purpose for this sunscreen is to save the coral reefs. That's my biggest passion. It's the reasoning behind my company. And I just want people to feel confident purchasing the product and also using it, but I want them to be educated as well. I feel like we have been so misled by these different industries. You know, they're telling us wear sunscreen so you don't get skin cancer, wear sunscreen so you don't get sunburnt, without realizing the damages that these chemicals are doing. What really caused me to change my mind about the sunscreen was what the chemicals that were in those chemical-based sunscreens, what they were doing to the coral reefs. Then I found out about a chemical called avobenzone, and avobenzone is actually in some reef-safe sunscreens that are out on the market, that are produced by these big pharma companies, and that actually enters your bloodstream and releases free radicals into your system. Then the more I researched, I saw that it was damaging the coral reefs, and the coral reefs play a huge role in our oceanic ecosystem. The coral reefs are help with so many different things in our environment. They're used for cancer research. They provide a home for different marine life. If we don't have these coral reefs and they're getting bleached and dying, we don't have an oxygen source. You know, 2/3 of the world's oxygen source comes from our oceans. The other 1/3 is the trees, and you're always hearing people say, save the trees, don't waste paper, don't do this. Well, why are we emphasizing on that when the other 2/3 are just as important? And I'm not negating the fact that we need to, you know, not save the trees, but, you know, the coral reefs, they are not reproducing. We're ruining their endocrine system. And it's obviously because of climate change. Some people say, you know, I don't want to get into the controversial topic of that, but the chemicals that are in the sunscreen, the oxybenzone and the oxynoxate, those are the 2 leading chemicals that are have been statistically proven to bleach the coral reefs. And now we're resorting to creating artificial coral reefs. And they actually only grow 2 centimeters a year. So it's going to take a lot of time to grow back 80% of what we've already wiped out.
Sure. If you don't mind me kind of dissecting that, so essentially, someone layers themselves in the damaging sunscreen for both themselves and for coral reefs, but
Yes.
when it says waterproof, it still is not resistant to your pores release it, I guess, into the water. Therefore, it's still afloat, and then eventually it sinks down to the bottom of the floor.
Yeah, I'll break down like what the lotion-based sunscreen does, and then the aerosol-based sunscreen. The lotion-based sunscreen, whether it's waterproof, whether it's not waterproof, it's still on your system. The chemical-based sunscreen, when you go into the water, it basically washes off exactly like you said, and just kind of sinks down into the coral reefs. The waterproof sunscreen is more damaging to humans than it is to the coral reefs, but it's still not a great choice. So the coral reefs, whether it's the lotion based or it's the spray, it's still going into and seeping into the pores of the coral reefs. The aerosol sunscreen, which is a lot more popular than the lotions because people don't like to have that goopy feeling, that's actually more damaging to the coral reefs. The reason for that is because when you're spraying an aerosol based sunscreen, only about 70% of that sunscreen is getting onto your skin. The rest is going out into the air, into the sand. Yeah, literally. So what that aerosol-based sunscreen does is it'll end up being on the grains of the sand and washing back into the ocean. 14,000 tons of sunscreen is being dumped into the ocean a year, and that's just from washing off of people or from the sand, which I think speaks volumes. And unfortunately, sunscreen has been a fear-based purchase for so many years that 90% of the people that are going out into the sun put it on. So it's just been overwhelming for the environment. The aerosol-based sunscreen, in my opinion, is a lot more damaging to the coral reefs than it is to anything else because of how it stays onto the sand or it enters into the air. And I mean, I wouldn't recommend either for right now. I would always recommend doing a physical sunscreen as opposed to the chemical-based sunscreens. But unfortunately, these companies have navigated around the verbiage of how to market themselves. So you see the reef safe sunscreen, for example, Coppertone. Coppertone sunscreen, they are starting to sell a lot more reef safe sunscreens. But if you go onto the back of the ingredients label, it still says avobenzone. So it promotes no oxynoxate, no oxybenzone, but the ingredient still says avobenzone. And avobenzone is that chemical that absorbs into our bloodstream and causes long-term havoc on our bodies, showing up in urine samples, blood samples, breast milk. Extremely, extremely damaging, which is scary because you don't want to have to compromise your health for the benefit of the reefs or vice versa.
That's amazing. I mean, so along the lines of really any big corporate product or ingredients along those lines, like they're extremely hard to pronounce. No one really understands where they're sourced from. Essentially, they're genetically modified or chemically created to do a certain thing, but they're of course not functioning to the fullest of their ability. And I love that you share your natural ingredients very transparently. It's one of your menu links,
Yes.
which is super refreshing to see because you're proud to promote that, of course. And I did go through it. So there's 14 ingredients, is that right?
Yes.
Awesome. So was it challenging? You started with a couple at first, from the kitchen to kind of evolving to the consistency. I'm sure it was a lot of experimenting yourself, right?
Yeah. So I was really hesitant at first to try anything that had chemicals in it. Obviously, I have non-nano zinc in the ingredients label as well. Zinc oxide is a huge part of protecting our bodies from the harmful UV rays. And at first, when I discovered all of these damaging chemicals, I was like, nope, it's just going to be all natural, save the earth, really excited. Everything that God created is just going to go into this bottle. But as I extended my research, I started to incorporate the non-nano zinc, and the non-nano zinc works as a physical barrier, so it doesn't absorb into our skin. It sits on top, and what I've done is I've emulsified that to where the essential oils that I have in the ingredients shear it out and make sure that it doesn't stay white onto your skin. Now, I initially created it with just shea butter and red raspberry seed oil. Red raspberry seed oil has a natural SPF of 40. But unfortunately, sunscreen is considered a drug, and there's a lot of legalities that go behind making it. So you can't really just put on red raspberry seed oil onto your skin with a little bit of shea butter and sell it into retailers, right? So I just started to figure out what products I use on my skin. As I've stated, I had cystic acne, so researching what kind of products to put on my face, I've been doing that forever. And I found out that a lot of the essential oils that I was using to help make my skin soft, to help brighten my skin, to help with dark spots, any sun damage that I've had previously, to keep my skin hydrated. They actually had some natural SPF in them too, or had a lot of healing properties in them. So I kind of just played, investigator and destroyed my blender and kind of like just whipped up different types of SunnyQ and saw which one I liked the best. I initially had beeswax in it, and I ended up taking it out for two reasons. One being I wanted to be accessible to everybody. Beeswax is an animal byproduct in a sense, and although it has a ton of healing properties and it's really beneficial for your skin, I didn't want anybody to have to turn away and say, this, I love everything that this stands for, but I don't use animal byproducts. So I removed the beeswax from the SunnyQ. And then I just decided that I wanted it to be something that people would brag about how soft their skin was. Like, I didn't want it to be your everyday sunscreen where it smelled bad or it makes my skin sticky. I wanted it to be a lotion where people were like, I can't wait to put this on my skin. I have a couple of essential oils that I love, jojoba oil and avocado oil, and those are two ingredients that are in SunnyQ. And I look forward to my skincare regimen because I get to use these products and they make my skin so soft and they smell so good. So I really wanted it to be a product that anybody could use, no matter what age they are, and feel confident in using it, knowing that they aren't damaging their skin and they know exactly what's in it. Transparency is like something that I'm really big on, both in my professional and my personal life. And I feel like when you are transparent from the jump, you don't have anybody questioning the integrity or where you stand with your product.
Yeah, and that's something, it really goes underappreciated because it's not recognized by many entrepreneurs or business owners because they just don't put that intention into, their business or projects. So
Yeah, so like I said, I initially was going into the runway program like, oh, cool, I'm going to get some money to buy more ingredients off of Amazon and just make it in my kitchen. I was expecting to get 5 people that were interested or 6 people that were interested and then potentially sell it at the farmer's market. I've always had that entrepreneurial mindset. I started working when I was 16, and um, my dad is an entrepreneur, my uncle is an entrepreneur, and um, I just wanted to like figure out a way to find out what I was passionate about. But when the news, Fox was the first news site that anchor or that interviewed me, and I wasn't expecting it to just blow up. So they put my Instagram tag on their handle on their website. And after the website or after the news launched my interview, I woke up the next day and had a bunch of people who are like, can't wait for this product. I'm so excited that somebody local is doing something about the coral reefs. And I told my mom, I said, there's no way that I'm going to be able to make 100 batches, you know, if that's what it resorts to consistently, knowing that they're going to be the same in my kitchen. I live in a tiny home, so there's no way that this would be able to be feasible in my kitchen. I said, I think that we need to get a manufacturer involved with this. And I put it off because I didn't want to seem pretentious and I didn't want to get ahead of myself. I was like, there's, you know, it'd be cool for it to go global. It'd be cool to be able to sell it in retailers, but, you know, I don't want to get ahead of myself, or I don't want to think too highly of myself to, you know, think that I'm have a chance at being being in retailers. And then somebody from NBC emailed me, or DM'd me on Instagram, and she asked me if she could come and interview me because she saw my interview with Fox. I don't know if I'm going to say that, but shot me interview with Fox, and she thought that it would be a great story as well. So she came to my house, and I did a mock of me making the sunscreen, and then I guess with NBC, they also share with ABC. So whatever stories are on NBC, they could be shared with ABC, and they could actually sell those stories to other NBC and ABC news outlets around the country or around the state. So I had a couple of people that were like, we just saw you on ABC West Palm Beach. And I was like, what? That's so cool. and so I told my mom, I said, okay, that's it. Like, I have to keep up with the hype because there's no way that I need to be fearful of this when it's just all so positive. And so something I've been continuously saying is I just removed fear out of my vocabulary and took the bull by the horns and let this go. Obviously, it's been a lot of hard work, and it's been very stressful amidst all of this that's going on with COVID-19. But I just really removed fear from my vocabulary and have been working my butt off and allowing this to transpire the way that I intend for it to.
Awesome. I love that you mentioned, discovering your passion. I love interviewing people who have kind of discovered their passion like on purpose, but it also does add value or purpose to their life, of course. So maybe you can talk about how, like, I understand you grew up, by the water, of course. Did you yourself swim through coral reefs or dive, do any of that?
No. So that's the thing, is like my passions have kind of been all over the place. I had a newfound passion for the coral reefs once I started to become more all natural. I never knew what I wanted to do in life. I almost didn't graduate high school. I went through, some personal things with my family that made me, kind of give up academically, even though I had all the things to be successful. I had all the tools to be successful, but I just didn't apply myself after those things happened. I was going into the Marines. I wanted to be a teacher. I was always trying to find my niche. The reason that I was going into the Marines after high school was because I felt like there was nothing else that I could do, and I was hoping that going that route would help me find myself. But then they kept postponing my ship date, so I was like, see ya, I'm not doing this. I'm only 18 years old. I don't want to have to sit around and wait. And so then I picked up my stuff and I moved to Philly because that's the only place that my dad would allow me to go chase my dreams, because he had friends and family up there that could watch over me. And then I moved back and I was going to try out school, but I wasn't ready to apply myself in school yet. I was still on a really rough path, and I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm going to become a teacher because I love kids, and that's a great field to get into. And I started to go to church, and I was volunteering in the student youth groups, and I was like, this could be my calling. And then I decided that wasn't for me, so I got a job at MAC Cosmetics, and I worked for MAC from age 20 to 24, on and off. So I worked for MAC at Nordstrom, and I thought that was going to be my life. I was going to just work at MAC at Nordstrom for the rest of my life and move up the corporate ladder. Then I got fired from that job, and I kind of went into panic mode because I dedicated 2 years of my life to working there, and I felt like I had nothing else inside of me. I had $2,000. No, I had $1,000 to my name. Bought a one-way ticket to Philly again because that's the only place my dad would let me go. Because I wanted to go to LA, and I was like, this is gonna be such a great story. I have $1,000 to my name, and I'm gonna go to LA. I'm gonna chase my dreams, and I'm gonna become famous, and da 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 da. And my dad's like, scratch that. You're going to Philly. Gonna go have dinner with your godparents every week. Go find yourself there. So I moved back to Philly again, and I was waitressing, and then I was doing pre-K because I was like, well, maybe I am supposed to be a teacher, and I never followed through with that passion. So I was trying out teaching pre-K for a little bit, or being an assistant teacher, and that verified that I'm not supposed to be a teacher. So then I kind of felt stagnant. I wasn't progressing. I wasn't getting worse, and I was like, this is not working out. Let me go back to Florida. I feel like I'm mature enough now to go to school, and then I can find my way through school and figure out what I want to do. Obviously, I said that I wasn't a great student in high school. I got into a lot of trouble, and so I decided to go to community college first to get my grades up. And if I didn't go to community college, I probably wouldn't be in the position I'm in, to be honest, because I had a professor there. He was my economics professor, and he told me that I was really good at economics, and he said I would be a great economics major. And I was a little dumbfounded because I didn't think that was a major that I would ever pursue. And he said, no, you're really great insights on different economical issues. I think this would be a great major for you. So I was like, okay, whatever. I'll go apply to FGCU as a transfer and put my major as pre-economics. Got into FGCU, started taking the courses, and I've been excelling. And if the timeline of everything is exactly how it was supposed to be for my life, because if I would have gone to FGCU any sooner, if I would have gone to FGCU right out of high school, I graduated in 2011. So the runway program wasn't even thought of then. It wasn't founded until 2016. So I started at FGCU in 2018. Professor Izzy, he only started there, I think, 2017. I don't quote me on that, but I know that he was a more recent professor. And then the professor at the community college, if I went to community college right after high school, he was teaching at FGCU at that time. So he went back to community college because he just wanted a little bit more leniency with his teaching. So it's like everything worked out in order for me to find my passions at the time that I was supposed to. If I never worked at MAC, I would have never been able to break down ingredients or products for skincare, right? I wouldn't have grown that passion. If I didn't try out teaching, I wouldn't have been able to explain myself the way that I do with these different products and gain the confidence that I have speaking in front of people. You know, if I didn't get saved, I wouldn't have the faith that I have to persevere and push through. Everything happened the way that it was supposed to in my life. And I feel like all of the passions that I thought I have aligned me with my true passions. And that's making a difference in the world and saving the coral reefs and kicking ass while doing it. I don't think people should be putting stigmas on what we're supposed to be doing with our life at a certain time. I always say that, you know, I feel like I got the short end of the stick in my early 20s, from 20 to 24, because my friends were graduating, getting their bachelor's, then going to get their master's, or they're getting engaged, or they're having a kid. And I'm like, what the hell is going on with me? Like, I can barely tie my shoes still. And I feel like, you know, this company has been my relationship, has been my baby, has been, you know, my bachelor's, master's degree, or it's actually leading up to it, because having this business has motivated me to graduate, has motivated me to become a better sister, daughter, friend, and a better leader too. You know, when you are put on a platform to, you know, make a difference in the world, there's a lot of pressure to it, but it makes you want to be like, I want to be a role model for these other kids, for these women, for these little girls who doubt themselves when they're in a time of turmoil, or in a time of, why is this happening to me? Because I've dealt with that a lot. I've always, I'm like, used to play back in my head, okay, if I would have just, you know, sucked it up and went to school, I would have had a degree at 22 years old, and I wouldn't be stressing about my, like, econometrics final that I have, or you know, if I would have just, you know, played teacher for a little bit and then found my passions later. No, you have to act on it right now. And I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be, and where God has placed me to be, because I wouldn't have appreciated what I have right now if I got it earlier in life.
Sure. I love that you shared that, because I mean, so many people, I think they're hard on themselves. Like myself included, that's really where the story is coming from. But you know, resonating with the storyline of like, unless you have the support system or foundation that is motivating you to continue that passion or line of purpose, if you will, it's very challenging to stay, again, momentous and excited for that. So it just sounds like everything literally was aligned and kind of placed for you to test and trial, and you were just opened and ready for those experiences. So it's so refreshing to hear, again, just being present in that moment and saying, okay, yes, this is for me now, but you know, through the process, this is not really it. But
Yeah.
I understand that I need to learn to move forward, you know,
Yeah.
beyond that. So.
Yeah. And it's crazy, because I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. You know, I'm a big believer in therapy. I'm a big believer in, you know, being vulnerable and not bottling up your feelings. I mean, I'm not perfect. You know, I have days where I just want to cry 5 times a day, and I get frustrated, especially with all this COVID-19 stuff going on, knowing that I was supposed to launch my business this month, and I had pre-orders, and I'm ready to go, and we're about to save the world. Yay, I love it. Okay, stop. We're not saving the world right now. We're saving human lives, because, you know, we have this pandemic going on. But for me, you know, I'm utilizing this time as like, okay, I've gotten through a crap ton of stuff that's a lot worse. How is this going to catapult me even more? You know, the reasoning behind the postponement on our launch date is because the company we outsource from, the tin cans from, they aren't making any shipments. So for me, I'm having to kind of switch my thought process. Like, okay, do I dwell on this? Do I just say, woe is me? Or do I do what I usually do and push through and, you know, find a way to use this opportunity as opposed to letting this opportunity use me. One of my favorite quotes that I use all the time whenever I'm feeling down is, if knowledge is your power, then learning is your superpower. We can never stop learning. There's always something to learn, and whether it be from reading a cereal box or going through a pandemic, you're always open to learning something new. It's just a matter of how susceptible are you to that.
Yeah, and it's a whole nother level of, I like to call it adaptation, because I think we become so comfortable in our ways of living and doing that when something tragic happens, we're stuck. We're traumatized by it. But if we were just kind of going with the flow more, I think we would realize, okay, this is not happening to me, and it's happening for me, of course, to allow me to move forward and grow.
Yeah.
And I mean, more or less, has allowed you to step into your power and embody that truth that you're speaking of.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm not gonna lie, I financially felt at first that I was going into panic mode. I do makeup, so I had makeovers that were canceling and weddings being postponed, and I'm not embarrassed or ashamed to say that I signed up for Shipt. I was doing Shipt orders. There's always something, because you looked at that as a networking opportunity. I'm wearing my SunnyQSunscreen hat in the grocery store, talking about, oh, this sucks. Like, my sunscreen was supposed to launch. Do you want to follow me? I just try to make conversation. Even when I was like texting the people that I was doing groceries for, I would kind of be like, so how are you holding up? And they're like, who's this weirdo? Like, she's just supposed to get my groceries. And I'm like, well, I was supposed to have a sunscreen company that was launching this month, and I'm pretty bummed out about it, but thank God for this. And they're like, sunscreen business. And then you just get in there and you start conversing about it. And once they hear about all the benefits that your business brings, because you're passionate about talking about it, then they want to be a part of it too. And I think that that's something that's really important as a business owner or somebody that is wanting to start a business, is that you want to get whoever your market is involved, and you want to make them feel like they're a part of it. That has been, I think, one of the biggest opportunities for my success, is because I've been taking people along on my journey from the beginning, from the first, news interview that I had up until, doesn't this suck, y'all? Like, don't you wish you had some SunnyQSunscreen on right now during this pandemic? You have all this time to lay out in the sun, and you can't even get your sunscreen because this dang tin can is not getting shipped to my manufacturer right now. And they're like, I feel you, girl. Like, I wish I had my SunnyQ. And it makes people feel a part of it, because they respect the hustle, and they respect the grit. And as long as you keep pushing forward and you're transparent with people about it, there's no reason that they can say an and, if, or but. They can say she's working her ass off. She's still coming through. She's still pushing through, but they can't say anything negative about why they don't have the product right in there,
So that is literally the one thing that is putting this all on hiatus.
Yeah. And I've been trying to figure out ways, because I discussed it with my mom. I just discussed it with my mentor. I discussed it with, my manufacturer. I was considering doing recyclable plastic just for the meantime, but I don't want to jeopardize the integrity of my company and have that be have them think that I go into panic mode when there's a pandemic going on, or when there's a block in the road, that I just compromise my moral compass. I don't want to, I could easily get the recyclable plastic, get the regular plastic, and be like, here you go, here's your sunscreen. But I don't want to jeopardize the integrity of what I work so hard for. I emphasize on saving the coral reefs, which then leads to saving the sea turtles, which then leads to saving our oceans. Why would I do that just to, generate revenue? And I don't I don't care about that. I care about saving the coral reefs. I care about making an impact. And if that has to be on hold for a little bit, if I just have to do a couple more videos on Instagram, like, doesn't this suck, y'all? Don't you wish you had your SunnyQ sunscreen? Me too. I'd rather do that for the next month than to have them be like, well, this is SunnyQ sunscreen. It's an all-natural sunscreen, but it does have plastic. And even though it's recyclable plastic, this stuff can still harm the sea turtles and blah, blah, blah. You know, it's just a domino effect that I would like to avoid. And I'd rather remain transparent with the people that have supported me throughout this entire process. And thankfully, but not thankfully, this is obviously happening to the world. It's not just something that is a halt on my business. A ton of other businesses are suffering. A ton of other small businesses are suffering right now. So, you know, I've tried to be mindful of that it's not just happening to me. Does it feel like it's just happening to me? Of course it is. I just told my therapist that 2 days ago, that I feel like it's just happening to me, because I've been looking forward to this for months, and to receive so much positive feedback as I have since October of last year, because that's when the first news interview was. It was overwhelming in the most positive way. And then to be like, have this stuff put on your table or on your plate, like, nope, actually, here you go. Here's your first experience as an entrepreneur during a time of crisis. And thankfully, you know, the people that are supporting me, that have pre-ordered, they're understanding. I am thinking of ways now to kind of keep the relevancy of SunnyQ for the people that did pre-order. So I had a special that was for the first 40 people. They get a gift with purchase. First 40 people that purchase 2 or more, they get a gift with purchase. So I'm thinking of, you know, sending those out and just being like, didn't forget about you. Can't wait for you to, you know, finally have your SunnyQ, and then sending thank you cards out. There's little things that you can do as a business owner that actually make such a big impact, and you don't think that it does until you see somebody's reaction to it.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So some of the other challenges that, you know, you faced, because it did seem like everything was, for lack of better words, kind of flawlessly placed for you, like, okay, yes, this is effortless.
Yeah.
And then, of course, almost like a slap in the face. You're like, nope, you can't actually produce your product, or, you know, finalize your product production line. Well, how, you know, because at that point I would imagine the feeling or overwhelming, like, it would almost have you think like, oh, this is not the right path for me, of course, right? Did you have those thoughts of like, oh, this is not
Yeah.
the ending point almost? Any of those crazy thoughts?
Yeah, so it was actually like before COVID-19. It was during my first pitch. And I went into there very confident. I don't want to say cocky, because I was extremely nervous. I practiced for weeks at a time for my pitch. And my mom heard me say, like, I could probably start off my pitch right now because I practiced it so many times that I have it memorized. Like, I'm Alexandria. I am the CSO, Chief Sunscreen Officer of SunnyQ Sunscreen, blah, 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 blah. So I went in there very confident that I knew my product. I knew my numbers. I knew, you know, what I was bringing to the table. And I know that there were, you know, other students who were starting off their small businesses. But in the back of my head, I was like, I had the news interviews. I have, you know, the people that are enticed about this, and they're excited and they're anticipating to get their hands on this product. And I asked for $20,000, and I was confident that I was going to be able to get that number based off of the news interviews, based off of my knowledge of the product and the numbers that I generated. The numbers, there was no estimates or guesstimates. It was like, this costs this much, this costs this much, I need this much for my merch, I need this much for, you know, the legal stuff. And I ended up getting probably like 25% of that. And I was crushed. I got the email that said, you know, congratulations, you received seed funding. Please go to the ETI to discuss how much you got. And I went there and I was excited and I was so happy. I'm like, yeah, I got money. And then they told me the number and I went into panic mode because it wasn't even going to cover the cost of the product. And I started crying and I was telling Scott, I said, I'm not ungrateful, like I'm not crying because I'm mad. I'm just really upset because I don't know what I'm going to do because I've been extremely transparent and vulnerable on social media. People are expecting this to get the product in May, and I don't, how am I going to come up with this money because I don't have this kind of money, to just throw away. I don't have the financial freedom to take out a loan and pay that back either. And so he was like, Alex, you need to realize like you've already accomplished this much without even having a product yet. You've received 900 followers. You have 200 people on your mailing list. You have all of these, news anchors that want to interview you and talk about this because the damages of the coral reefs aren't talked about as much as they should be. And he said, you have it in you. That's, I think, why the judges didn't give you as much as you wanted because they know that you have it in your stuff. And I was like, but I worked my butt off, and like I don't. Why can't they just like believe that I have it in me and give me at least half? Or I was so frustrated and overwhelmed because I went into panic mode about how am I going to do this. I don't want to let people down, and I had to reflect and be like, I don't want to let myself down. Why am I just going to give up after all of this? Like, who am I going to look like to all of these people if I'm just like, I'm deciding to go down a different path, guys. Like, good luck. I gave you all the information about saving the coral reefs. Don't use chemical sunscreen. Have a good day. No, I went back to the beginning and I figured out how I was going to come up with that money and how I was going to ensure that I would have enough money to cover all the costs that I needed. And I decided to pitch again because with the runway program, it actually allows you to pitch every semester. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to give myself this much freedom to raise X amount of dollars, and whatever I don't raise, I'm going to do it through my next pitch. And so there's so many opportunities, and I think that's what I don't want to say frustrated, but I love to see people step outside of their comfort zones. I guess because I've seen what I have been able to accomplish and I see the potential. I'm very passionate about people. I love people. I love interacting with people. I love talking. And I love, making an impact and making people feel powerful. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a Kickstarter. I'm going to raise this money and I'm going to make a video and I'm going to get everybody excited about it. I'm going to get pre-orders and we're going to get this party going. And I ended up raising what I needed to within the range that I said. And I did a second pitch and I raised the rest of the money. And it felt so powerful that I did it on my own. And I went in January in panic mode, crying, figuring out how am I going to do this? How am I going to, tell people that this is going to be postponed probably another year because I don't have the finances to accomplish what I need to. The manufacturing company that I work with, they have a minimum requirement for the batches that you have to purchase. So it's not like I can just purchase 100 sunscreens and then hope that I sell 100 and then buy another 100. You have to purchase a certain amount, and it's a challenge, but I feel like you become your best self when you are in those predicaments where you have no choice but to succeed. And I feel like that's where God placed me, is like, okay, Alex, you went this far and it's been a breeze, but let's see how you react to this hump, to this hurdle. Let's see how you react to this. Are you going to fold, or are you going to catapult and be like, nope, not this time. I'm not going, because that's what I would do habitually when I was in a predicament historically. If I'm in a predicament I don't like, or I feel like it's going to challenge me, I fall back or I pick up and leave. That's why I moved to Philly 2 times. You know, I didn't want to face the challenges that were being put in front of me because I was scared. And that's again why I say remove fear from your vocabulary and watch what happens, because there's so much growth over that. You know, there's so much growth on the other side of that fear. And you don't know until you experience it. You can hear people talk about it till they're blue in the face, but until somebody experiences like truly removing fear and just going after what you want, it's very liberating.
If you don't mind sharing, what was your biggest fear, like failure, or what was?
Yeah, I think that because there was so much habitual failure in my life since I was in high school, you know, barely graduate. I went to 5 different high schools. Yeah, I wasn't, you know, Susie Homemaker, a wild child. And I didn't deal with trauma well. My parents, you know, they got divorced, and we were always the, you know, star family. So it was kind of a shock for me, especially being 16 and, you know, thinking that my parents were going to be together forever. And I had Florida prepaid college, and I was going to go to UF and live this, you know, great life and become an orthodontist, because that's what I wanted to do in high school. I wanted to be an orthodontist, and for like 6 months. And I think that I just, I barely graduated high school. And then for a year, I was partying crazy. I was doing a lot of things. I was getting into a lot of trouble, had a fake ID, did this, that, and the third, and not around a good group of people and people that actually believed in me. You know, I always say that like I had to have friends teach me how to be a friend, because I surrounded myself with people who just wanted to see me fail and didn't want to see me become great. And I didn't get to experience those types of friends, or the core group of friends that I have now. I mean, I still have friends that I from high school and stuff, but I didn't appreciate them the way that they needed to be appreciated, because they were overpowered by the people that were negative influences on my life. And, you know, I'd teach myself how to be a friend, and then I was going through these stages of trying to figure out who I was. And, you know, the Marines is a big deal. And, you know, I thought that I was going to follow my grandfather's footsteps of going into the Marines, and that was going to make my family proud, but it wasn't making me happy. It wasn't fulfilling my life. Then I tried to figure out what I was doing with the teaching. That wasn't making me happy. I just left it. I dropped everything instead of facing my fears. And obviously I'm grateful that I didn't go through with those things, because it led me to where I am now. But there's always that, you know, what if I just sucked it up? And what if I just, you know, went to the Marines and did my 4 years and then came back home? Would I still be in the position that I am now? Because that would have been 18, 19, 20, 21. I would have been out at 21 years old. So or 24 years old, 22 years old. So it wouldn't have, you know, influenced me. I still didn't find myself till I was 24, 25. But you have to like put into your mind that like you can't reflect on the what ifs. You know, you just have to live in the moment and be grateful that you aren't who you were back then. Because I can guarantee that that old Alex wouldn't be accomplishing what she is right now. And that's what I'm grateful for, is like, even though I was fearful, going through all those things where I was fearful led me to be fearless now. And I think that that's something that I need to constantly remind myself, is like, I can, woe is me till I'm blue in the face, but at least I've persevered, and at least I've pushed through, and hopefully going through all that I have can help motivate somebody to chase their dreams with no ends, ifs, or buts.
That is super awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, it's again, like, I still struggle with, you know, coping mechanisms and how to channel my energy when I'm feeling overwhelmed or frustrated. But you know, it's all about the growth, and I think that you never stop like trying to be your best self. I don't think that anybody is at a point in their life where they're like, I'm my best self right now. Or at least I hope not, because I think that that's what makes the world, the world a better place, is that people always want to be better than what they were yesterday, a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. I hope that this isn't the, peak of my life, and I hope that I have enough motivation for myself to strive to be better than what I am right now. And what you said about like my parents supporting me and all that, that's also what kind of catapulted me too, is, I did have this cookie cutter life, and, everybody expected me to just have everything handed to me. I went to private school for 2 years, and then, I had the Florida prepaid college, which I'm so grateful for. And that's actually what also motivated me to go back to school, because I had this feeling like there's people that would kill to have free college. And I'm just wasting it. What do I have to lose? But for me, I look at, my dad being an entrepreneur, my uncle being an entrepreneur, both successful in their own ways. Like, that's already in my DNA. Why do I need to, seek their help? Why do I need to seek my family's help financially, or, guide me in a way where I'm not putting in any effort? If they're my uncle and my father, it's already in my DNA for me to be successful. I just need to figure out how to utilize that. And that's my uncle. He's like one of my biggest inspirations as far as like starting from nothing. We kind of have parallels to our story, in a sense. And he started off washing dishes at a restaurant, and then got a shot at flipping burgers at the restaurant that he was working at one night, and then enjoyed it, went to culinary school, and now he owns 6 restaurants. So for me, it's like, I see him do it, why can't I? And that really motivates me. It's like, there's no limits to how successful we can be except for what's in here. And using what's between our ears is the biggest help to our success, because it could either fall to you and it can make you feel like you can amount to nothing, or it can make you feel like you could take over the world. And personally, I want to choose the latter.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, because it's a fulfillment, it sounds just like, it doesn't even feel like a meme, but it's like you feel good, like the fullest, in which, I guess, you're doing the right thing. Of course, it's service to others in the world, and it's just a positive influence and working on what I call, leaving a legacy for future generations.
It's funny you say the word legacy, because that's something that I emphasize on. Like, I want to create a legacy. I don't care if it's with a partner, if it's by myself, or if it's just my business. I want to make a lasting impact on the world, where it gives somebody, whether it's my children, whether it's somebody that's passionate about the oceans or the coral reefs, or if it's somebody who really could give 2 craps and decides, oh, let me see what this sunscreen's about, and they feel moved by what I'm trying to do. And that legacy, that's like the word that I'm always using, because I think that it's so important that we all try to find our reasoning for leaving a legacy. It's not just one person, it's a multitude of people. I'm a Cancer, so I'm very empathetic towards people and towards different things. There's some things where I just catch myself, praying for somebody that I see walking down the street. I'm like, I pray they get a bicycle, like little things like that. And I feel like those kind gestures actually help mold you into creating your own legacy, because as long as you're a good person, the things that you do for the world and for yourself and in your life will permeate to others. I don't try to get big into politics or the politics of business, but I always say, I just want to make my circle happy, and then hopefully my circle being happy will permeate to their circle being happy, that'll jump to their circle being happy. And I feel like that's how we make the world a better place, is by making ourselves happy and then spreading that and hoping that they continue to spread that as well.
That is wonderful. Well, I think we've hit all the bullet points like I expected. Is there any last message you feel guided to share, or words of wisdom for the audience and viewers?
No, I think that the timing of all of this is awesome because, I have been questioning myself and questioning if what I'm doing is, God's plan for my life, and to have you, reach out to me and talk about my business and talk about my story. And, hopefully that helps somebody else, but it's also motivating me to not give up, because there are situations that are going on in the world that the only people that can fix them is us. And if we disregard our passions, or if we disregard what we feel like we can help make the world a better place, then we're just going to remain stagnant. And I think that what you're doing is awesome, and I'm really grateful that you included me in it.
I'm so thankful for the experience and really the network of people that I'm meeting along the way. And I never would have imagined like this would be, I guess, an episode or even content that I would be talking about sunscreen that's changing the world. But
Yeah.
Look at that. That's the way the world is changing. Because, an individual takes back their power again and sells the potential for themselves. And it's just truly inspiring more for me. And that's what I want to bring to you as an audience of this.
Yeah, no, I think what you're doing is amazing. Is showing that real life people can make a difference in the world. And, the person that you see walking down the street could be somebody that you'd enjoy hearing.
Yeah, and it's all, again, just evolving through passion and purpose. And I firmly believe, life is created to find your own meaning and, reasons to being here, but to enjoy it along the way. And it sounds like you found a balance of both.
I'm trying.
Yeah. It's not easy, I'm still working on it, but it's the beauty of life itself. We're given these chances to say yes, say no, and kind of reflect on where that will take you. And when you feel like you're right where you're supposed to be, there's no better feeling.
Yeah, and I hope that you are finding that through this too, because it definitely is really cool to see. Because I was watching the videos that you did before, just to get an idea, and you would look at those people and you'd never guess that that's their story. And it's really cool to reflect and wonder, how people view you when you're walking down the street. And I think it's really great that you're doing all this.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Well, I hope it has it says that there's people in and out of the views, but we'll see. But thank you so much for sharing everything. And I look forward to putting that sunscreen on the face.
Yeah,
So I wish you the best in the final production side of this.
Thank you so much. Yeah, fingers crossed, because we're hoping. I could do recyclable plastic, but I'd rather just wait and have the product that I want.
No, and I love that you share, the integrity. That is like your passion and intention behind it. And from a marketing perspective, then you'd have to change your branding of the all of it. That's a blessing. Well, thank you again, Alex.
Yes, no problem.
I look forward to staying connected, and wish you all the best with the success of this company.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day, hon.
Thanks. Bye.